In a jewelry store where our main character Lacey works, a guy walks in with his dog, looking around, trying to find an engagement ring. He is unsure what type of ring his girlfriend likes, so he asks Lacey for help. She brings out some samples and starts asking the guy about the type of cut he is looking for. However, this doesn't seem to help as he's getting overwhelmed by all the choices. She comments that it might help if he has an idea about what she likes, but this pressures the guy even more. He is overwhelmed and seems to be very nervous about all her questions and choosing the right ring, so he decides to excuse himself and politely tells her that he will just come back. Joan, the shop's owner, who's also her good friend, arrives. Lacey asks if she saw what just happened, and she did, commenting that Lacey just turned the most exciting moment in the man's life into a full-blown panic attack. She advises Lacey that it's her job to help the guy navigate through his decision, and she cannot do it if she keeps second-guessing herself. Lacey is too scared to help customers decide, thinking that her suggestion might be the cause of ruining people's relationships. It seems that she has a huge problem with self-confidence. Joan asks how she is doing, living in her mom's house after she just passed away. It's tough for Lacey, knowing how hard her mom worked to get that house. She's taking on 2 jobs to pay the bills and mortgage to make sure she keeps it. She thinks her mom would be disappointed with her right now if she is still there, as she's just working random jobs and living alone with no boyfriend. Joan tries to console her, reminding her that she's not alone, as she has her pet fish, Brutus, living with her. She also brings up how Lacey put her life on hold to take care of her mom when she was sick, and she's just figuring things out right now, so she shouldn't be too hard on herself. Joan tells her she can clock off early so she can take some rest before going to her second job as a night security. At home, Lacey is preparing to go to her night job, checking all her mails, which are primarily overdue bills. She teases her pet Brutus that he might need to start paying rent too, before going out as she is running late. She arrives at the building and sees Bertie, her shenanigan-obsessed fellow security guard. He reminds her that shenanigans never lose track of time, so she shouldn't be late next time. She does her first patrol in the building while holding her sketchbook. She sees 2 employees discussing a marketing pitch for their client, Empress Resorts. It looks like they are unable to come up with anything satisfactory. She's about to leave when she accidentally bumps into Greg, an executive of the company, causing him to drop his sandwich. She apologizes, and he assures her it's okay. The lady Cynthia sees her peeking into their conversation and shuts the door. Once done doing her round, she sits down to sketch her idea about the marketing pitch she heard the employees discussing. She makes a mock-up with a tagline saying, "Just add you." While doing her final round, she sees the conference room with the marketing team's ideas spread all over the table. She takes a look, and then Bertie unexpectedly arrives. She makes up an excuse saying she thought she heard something and is checking it. Then, they go on with their final patrol around the building. But Lacey unknowingly left behind her sketchbook on the table. She finishes her shift and is about to go home when she remembers her sketchbook. She runs back inside the conference room, and the people there mistake her for somebody else, telling her to sit down. She doesn't know what to do, so she obeys the order to sit down. She tries to ask Aaron, the assistant sitting beside her, to hand over the sketchbook. Mikey, the CEO of the company, who's also Greg's brother, walks in. He sees the mock-ups on the wall and is not impressed by any of them. Then he sees the sketchbook, browses through it, and sees Lacey's ideas. He asks her why that sketch is there, and Lacey is ready to explain herself when Mikey adds that it should be up on the wall because he thinks her idea is great. Everyone in the room is surprised. Lacey is surprised that she is suddenly being treated as a part of the team, and the rest are surprised that their CEO is finally liking an idea. Before walking out, Mikey says he wants the mock-ups done by the following day and praises the whole team for the good work. Greg tries to get Lacey's attention, but she hurriedly walks out of the office, so he runs to catch up to her. Greg assumes that she is Valerie Staken, an executive who previously turned down their job offer and decided to choose another firm. Greg tells Aaron to set up everything for her, even asking to arrange her new office. Lacey tries to explain that there is a mix-up going on, but Greg doesn't even let her finish, thinking she might change her mind about choosing to stay. Cynthia doesn't look pleased at this at all. Greg leads her to her office, and even promises to get her a bigger one. Lacey tries to explain again, but Greg cuts her off, thinking she's having second thoughts because of the bonus. Upon hearing the word bonus, Lacey decides to hear what he has to say. It turns out that they will get a sales bonus amounting to $5,000 each if Empress Resorts hires them. That is a huge amount, and Lacey knows she needs it to pay her bills. There is an opportunity right in front of her. She did not even have to look for it. All it took was an office mix-up, and here she is. She decides to stay, even though she knows she will have to pretend to be a different person. At home, Lacey tells Joan that she took the job. Joan is shocked that her friend with such low self-esteem is capable of doing something like this. She tries to knock some sense into her head, warning her that she will have to do a job she has never done before and will be taking another woman's identity. Lacey explains that it's only going to be for a week. Their presentation is coming up by the end of the week, and as soon as Empress Resorts hires them, she gets the bonus and can leave right away. She also emphasizes that the bonus is enough money for her to get caught up with her mortgage. To add, she tells Joan that she will keep her security job. Joan thinks this is unbelievable, as she will be working all night and all day. Lacey thinks it's not going to be a problem since she can go home at 5 p.m. after her day job, and then she can still get enough sleep before starting her security job at midnight. The only problem she can think of is avoiding seeing Birdie while pretending to be Valerie Staken during the day. 1 week is all she needs. Birdie is looking for Lacey and finds her busy sketching. Lacey spots Cynthia walking and immediately hides. Birdie wonders what she is doing, so she pretends she is just exercising. The next second, Greg walks by and she hides again. Obsessed with catching shenanigans, Birdie thinks she is seeing some, so she joins her in hiding. To get rid of him, Lacey throws an apple by the plants and redirects Birdie's attention to it, pretending she heard something. It's time for Lacey to start his day as Valerie Staken. She just finished changing from her uniform and is opening the bathroom door. Coincidentally, Greg and Cynthia are passing by, and Greg gets hit by the door. Lacey apologizes for the accident, and Greg assures her he is fine. Cynthia asks her about the mock-ups, and she tells her she is about to go to have it printed. Cynthia volunteers to bring it to the printers herself so she can go have some coffee. Lacey thanks her and heads to the pantry. Cynthia checks her mock-ups and seems to be smelling something suspicious. In Mikey's office, Greg tells his brother that he wants to run the campaign himself. It seems that Greg is trying to prove himself to his brother, but Mikey is not confident that he can handle this yet, seeing as Empress is a big company with dozens of resorts across the country. Greg is aware of this but insists that he is ready, asking his brother to give him a shot. Seeing his brother's determination, he tells Greg that if he gets the Empress to sign with them, then he can run the campaign. Greg is delighted to get this chance. Erin goes to Lacey's office asking her what she would like to get for lunch. She asks Erin what she could recommend. However, Erin tells her that she is not included in the lunch orders, as it is for the executives only, so she cannot recommend anything. She chooses something and asks for an espresso as well. Erin forgot the menu on her table, so Lacey tries to catch up to her, but Birdie passes by, so she immediately hides behind the door. A few seconds later she opens it, but is surprised to see Greg about to knock, so she shuts it out of surprise. Greg is a bit nervous about the upcoming presentation to the Empress executives, so he wants to go over the mock-ups to check if everything is sorted out. They head to the conference room when Lacey sees that Birdie is passing by and tries to hide again, but accidentally stands too close to Greg. They stare at each other for a few seconds until he reveals that she is actually stepping on his foot. Lacey is flustered and a bit embarrassed. She sees the mock-ups and is amazed that her ideas are getting turned into actual materials. Greg teases that the way she is reacting seems like she has never seen her ideas turn into a mock-up before. She feels nervous about this comment, scared of getting found out, so she just pretends that she is just amazed at how the mock-up turned out. Lacey and Greg are talking about ideas for the campaign when Cynthia sees them. She doesn't seem to like Lacey getting too close to Greg. He also tells her to cancel his upcoming meeting but realizes she is the one he is supposed to meet. Greg tells her he has to take Lacey to meet their graphic artist. This irks Cynthia more, as Greg is now prioritizing Lacey over her. Erin walks in with their lunch. Lacey decides to give Erin one of the sandwiches, which Erin refuses to take as she is not included in the order, but Lacey insists anyway. Everyone thanks her for getting them lunch, except Cynthia. Greg presents the mock-ups to Mikey, who likes the materials. Greg tells him that Valerie, who is actually Lacey, is really good and is being a great help with the campaign. He praises his brother for a great job, but tells him he still has to keep working to improve the mock-ups. Greg is already very happy upon receiving his brother's approval. Lacey is about to go home when Greg comes into her office and tells her that Mikey loves their ideas, but he wants to see more mock-ups by the next day, so they will have to work late tonight. Lacey tells him that she has somewhere to be. Greg jokingly asks if she has a side hustle to pay the bills, which is actually true, but thankfully he's just kidding and has no idea that Lacey actually has a side hustle. He tells Lacey that getting the Empress account is a top priority right now, so she should cancel her prior engagements. Looks like Lacey's double life is already catching up to her. Erin asks her what she wants for dinner, and the frustrated Lacey asks if Greg works late a lot. Erin tells her that Greg does this every week, and she even stays with him all throughout. This does not seem to be an issue for Erin, as she sees that Greg is very passionate about his job, but for her, it's going to be a big trouble. After multiple cups of coffee, they are just doing some final checks now. Greg expresses that he just wants to make sure that everything is perfect, as this is his solo account, and he wants to prove to Mikey that he can do it. His brother's approval really means a lot to him, and Lacey sees this. Greg shares that Mikey has just always been the favorite in their family compared to him, and he wants this campaign to work successfully, maybe not only to prove himself to his brother, but to prove something to himself as well. Lacey shares that she can relate to that. She's always had low self-confidence, even if the people around her see something so much more in her. Lacey checks her phone and sees that it's already past 11 p.m., so he tells Greg they should continue with the work tomorrow. Greg offers to walk her out, but she refuses, making up an excuse that someone is waiting for her. Greg assumes that she has a lover, so she clarifies that she doesn't have someone. Then she asks him in turn if he has someone. His answer pleases her, saying he doesn't have someone as well. It's quite obvious that there is a budding romance between the two. Lacey has just finished changing into her security uniform and doing her patrol. Joan visits her and brings her a cup of coffee. She excitedly fills Joan in on what is happening on her day job, and even shares how much she admires Greg. She then shows her some mock-ups for a campaign they are working on for the next month, and this alarms Joan. She reminds Lacey that she is supposed to be there for only a week. Lacey seems to be getting into being Valerie Staken too much, that she's forgetting she is not her. She feels that she finally found something she might actually be good at, but Joan slaps her with a reality check. She's there to get the bonus, and then get out before she gets arrested. Lacey could not believe she could get arrested, but Joan bluntly tells her that she is committing fraud, and reminds her to stick to her plan. The next morning, after finishing her shift, she changes back to her office clothes to go on with her day as Valerie. Greg calls her to the conference room to finalize their proposal. Cynthia brings up that she has a couple of ideas, saying the current tagline is missing something. She presents her ideas to Greg, but he thinks they should just stick to their original tagline and decides to table those for consideration later on. Disappointment creeps on Cynthia's face. Lacey feels bad about Cynthia's ideas not getting approved, so she tries to console her, but looks like Cynthia does not appreciate it. She just excuses herself, saying she has to bring the mock-ups to the printers. She opens the file, and looks like she just thought of an evil idea. Lacey is heading back to her office when Erin calls her attention. She gives her a file with supporting materials for Lacey's pitch, and she really appreciates it. Erin notices that she looks like she has not slept in a week, and wants to show her one more thing. She shares that she has been sleep-deprived herself for the last few years, due to her classes. Lacey is amazed to hear that she is studying marketing, and that she is graduating this coming weekend. Erin shares that her family will be arriving tonight to celebrate with her, and she is picking them up at the airport after work. They finally arrive at the place Erin wants to show Lacey, her secret nap room. She assures Lacey that she will be sure to cover for her and wake her up before the meeting with the Empress executives. Erin keeps to her promise and wakes up Lacey before the meeting. The executives arrive and Greg begins with their proposal. He proceeds to show the mock-ups, and everyone is shocked to see a glaring typo error in the material. This disappoints the Empress executives, and also Greg. Lacey is in charge of proofreading the materials, so she's getting the blame for this error that could cause them to lose their client. Fortunately, Mikey is friends with one of the clients who decided to give them another chance. He tells Greg that this happened because he relied too much on his people, when he should have been checking everything. Greg goes to the conference room to meet Lacey and Cynthia. He is utterly disappointed that he cannot even look at Lacey. He tells her that they do not need her anymore on the proposal, and coldly says that he and Cynthia can take it from there. Lacey is taken aback. Greg asks Erin to order their dinners, saying they need to work late that night again. Erin tries to tell him that she has to go, but Greg angrily tells her to just take the orders, leaving Erin with no choice. Seems like she will not be celebrating with her family tonight. Lacey goes to Joan to share what happened, saying it looks like that's the end of her life, as Valerie Staken. Joan comments that Lacey has this habit of bailing out whenever she encounters hiccups at anything she tries. Lacey is shocked to hear that her friend has this impression of her. Joan reiterates the multiple things she tried before, which she quickly gave up after encountering setbacks. She tells Lacey that she loves her like her own sister, and tells her that she can do anything she puts her mind to, but hopes that she puts her mind to something before it gets too late. At home, while checking her mail, she sees the first sketch she did for the campaign. the sketch that started it all, and thinks of something. At the office, Greg expresses to Cynthia that it's unbelievable how he did not double-check the mock-up. Cynthia tells him it's not his fault that Val would make such an obvious mistake. She suggests that after the failure of their proposal, they should think of something else to present to the clients, as they would not be pleased to see the same proposal. She suggests that they should present her idea instead. Greg agrees to give it another look, and Cynthia immediately smiles at this. Lacey musters up the courage to go back to the office, wearing her game face, ready to stand up for herself. She passes by Erin, surprised to see her still there when she's supposed to be celebrating with her family tonight. She explains that Greg wanted her to stay. Lacey tells her that she can go. She's ready to stand up not only for herself, but also for Erin. Cynthia calls Erin asking her to bring them coffee, so Lacey goes to them. With a straight face, she tells the two that she has sent Erin home. She asks Greg if he has any idea why Erin needed to go home earlier, but he doesn't, and Lacey says that it's because he never thought about Erin. She tells both of them that she's graduating this weekend, and her family is in town right now, waiting for her. She turns to Cynthia, lecturing her about barely acknowledging Erin when she is the glue that holds that entire place together. Greg asks her why she came back. She tells them that the proposal is her idea, and she knows it's a good one, so she is not going anywhere, and they are going to stick with it. She is taking the reins now. No more push over Lacey this time. She tells them to order flowers for Erin, and make sure it's on her desk tomorrow morning to congratulate her. Then, they will get coffee by themselves and start working on the proposal. The two are lost for words at the shift in her character. Greg even comments that he liked it, earning Cynthia's glare. Then, he starts ordering the flowers as commanded by Lacey, while telling Cynthia to get them coffee. She angrily proceeds to the pantry. Bertie is doing his patrol and sees Lacey's secret nap room. He takes some photos of it and hurriedly runs to his station. Lacey is just finishing up discussing with Greg and Cynthia, and is about to go, but she sees Bertie passing by, so she pretends she just remembered something. After seeing that Bertie is gone, she tells the two that it's already late and they should continue tomorrow. Bertie installed a CCTV camera in the nap room to catch whoever was sleeping there. The next day, he sees Lacey on the live footage and immediately runs to the nap room. Before Lacey can even explain herself, Bertie already assumes that she is trying to get in the sleeper's head by doing exactly what the culprit does, thinking it could help catch them. Lacey jumps at the opportunity and agrees with Bertie, sighing with relief after he leaves. Greg is talking to Mikey about the revised proposals. They have an awards night to attend tonight, and Mikey asks him if he already has a date. Greg is thinking about asking Valerie, and Mikey tells him to go for it. Lacey arrives in her office and sees Greg waiting for her. He asks her if she is free tonight, and asks her to be his date for the gala. Lacey instantly accepts the invitation. She calls Joan and goes to her place afterward to prepare for her date. Lacey is having a little panic attack, worrying about the date, but Joan helps to clear her mind and helps her with some jewelry she can wear. Greg is ready to go when Cynthia walks in. He says he's just waiting for Valerie, and Cynthia is surprised that she will be going too, and as Greg's date at that. Greg heads out, and Cynthia notices that he left his gala tickets on his chair, but does not say a word about it. Greg notices that the tickets are missing. He tells the ladies that he will go back to the office to get them, but Cynthia says he can't as the office is too far. She tells Greg that she has a ticket for a +1 so Greg can come with her. However, Greg insists that he will not be leaving his date. Mikey is the one that's nominated and not him, so it will be fine if he's not there. This leaves Cynthia no option but to go by herself. Her own evil plan bounced back to her this time. The two decide to go to a restaurant instead. Greg compliments Lacey's look, and she compliments him in turn. He confesses that he feels like he knows her already, even when they just met a week ago, and she says the same thing to him. He also feels that he can be himself around her, and wishes she also feels the same. Hearing this makes Lacey want to tell him the truth, but she changes her mind. She's not ready to confess yet. While walking back to the building, Lacey musters up the courage again, and is about to confess, but she sees Bertie by the window and immediately turns her back before getting recognized. Then she excuses herself from Greg, saying she has to go, leaving Greg wondering. Lacey goes to Joan to tell her what happened. Joan keeps telling her that she has to tell the truth now, or it will just keep getting worse for her. Lacey finds it difficult as she already has deep feelings for him, and is scared to ruin it all by telling the truth, but she assures her friend that she will finally tell him tomorrow. Back in the office, Cynthia arrives and pretends to be Valerie, asking Bertie's help to get into her office. She immediately searches Lacey's things and finds her security ID, just exactly what she needs. She asks Bertie if he knows the woman in the ID, and he tells her that she works with him at the security desk. She asks him when her next shift is, and Bertie tells her it's tomorrow morning, as she has the weekend day shift. The next day, Lacey is in the office, wearing her security uniform. She's trying to call Greg, but he doesn't pick up, so she leaves him a voicemail. It turns out that Cynthia is bringing Greg to the office that day to catch Lacey, and she succeeds. The moment Lacey turns, she sees Cynthia and Greg. Cynthia has this satisfied smile on her face, while explaining to him that Lacey is not Valerie Staken, but a building security guard. Looks like Lacey waited too long to tell the truth, and now she is caught. She tries to explain, but Greg doesn't want to hear her explanation, and walks away with a sad and hurt look. To make matters worse, Bertie also witnesses the revelation and says that he has to let her go since she lied to him and the company. Lacey tries to explain herself, but to no avail. Joan comforts her friend as she just lost both her job and even Greg. She tells her that she can work for her again, but Lacey says that she doesn't really like working at the jewelry store, and she wants to do something with a purpose. The next day, Greg frustratedly tells Mikey about what happened. Mikey loves his brother, but tells him he is being an idiot for not letting Lacey explain herself. He tells Greg to give her a chance to explain. Mikey even says that despite being a security guard, she still came up with a good campaign. He calls Cynthia, telling her to prepare her ideas mock-ups for the presentation that day to the Empress, deciding not to use Lacey's idea. Cynthia is elated, knowing her plan worked. She brings out the original mock-up that Lacey made. It shows that Cynthia intentionally changed the spelling of the brand, which caused their initial presentation's failure. Left with no choice, Lacey returned to working at the jewelry store. The same guy at the beginning who was looking for an engagement ring walks in, and upon seeing her, he starts walking away, but Lacey stops him. This time, she is more confident in helping him and recommends a ring. He looks happy upon seeing the ring, but starts having worries, thinking what if that ring is not the one, or if his girlfriend is not the one. Lacey sees herself in him, and after everything that happened to her the past week, she definitely learned her lesson. So she asks him if he wants to spend the rest of his life with her, and he says yes. Lacey tells him that he needs to take that risk, otherwise he is going to miss out on the best thing that could happen to him. Her words do not only get through to the guy, but also to herself. She realizes she has to take that risk as well. She immediately decides to go, leaving the jewelry store, and the guy is left wondering again what kind of jewelry store it is. Greg is walking around the office and goes to Cynthia's table looking for something when he sees the original mock-ups in the trash can. He instantly figures out that it was Cynthia who sabotaged their initial presentation. He is shocked to realize the length Cynthia was willing to take, even risking Greg's account just to make Lacey look bad. Then, he decides to go with Lacey's campaign. Lacey hurriedly goes to the office and walks into the conference room while Greg is presenting. She helps him finish the presentation, and the clients seem to be impressed. Cynthia calls Bertie's attention, telling him to take away Lacey for trespassing. Greg agrees, saying they don't allow trespassers in the company. But the trespasser he is referring to is not Lacey. Right there and then, he fires Cynthia for jeopardizing their presentation and sabotaging Lacey. Cynthia tells him that he can't handle all this by himself, but Greg assures her he can because he is promoting Aaron. Aaron and Lacey are delighted by this. Bertie then escorts Cynthia outside. Lacey tells Greg that she came back because she couldn't leave things the way they were. She also tells him that she may have lied about the job, but she never lied about how she feels. She is not expecting him to forgive her after this. Greg catches up to her and confesses his feelings for her. The next scene takes us back to the jewelry store, and this time, Lacey is not the one behind the counter. Greg puts a ring on her finger, and they seal their love with a kiss.